All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Good morning. Let's begin. We are continuing Reb Hashem in Os Gimel. So remember, again, we left off yesterday with the idea. Reb Tzadok was highlighting the concept that when it comes to Kriyas Shema is not, as we often think about the obligation to do Shema, to recite Shema by day and by night. But the truth is, Reb Tzadok says, if you think about it a little bit more concretely, really, the mitzvah of Kriyas Shema is b'shach b'cha uvekumecha, when you go to sleep and when you wake up. So Rebbe was trying to explain why the distinction between night and day and when you go to sleep, when you wake up. In other words, why is the mitzvah of Kriyas Shema framed in that way that you recite it when you go to sleep and when you wake up? So Rebbe says as follows. He says, we're on page Vav. In the Be'urei HaChasidus, he writes like this. He says, Diyoev azman bazeh, Diyoev hazman bazeh shetala kasuv os zman chiyuva shel mitzvah Kriyas Shema, that the Torah purposely discusses the mitzvah of Kriyas Shema dafka lefi zman hashchiva v'hakima shel ha'adam, dafka in accordance with the time that a person wakes up and goes to sleep, or goes to sleep and wakes up, v'lo lefi zmani haboker v'ha'erev sheba'olam, and not simply in accordance with day and night of the world. Sha'az maschil hayom v'alayla mishum. Did I actually read this? No, yeah. Mishum ta'boker ve'erev heim shinuyim ba'olam v'lo ba'adam. So this is fascinating. I think we mentioned this yesterday. It says morning and evening, right, day and night, morning and nighttime, those are changes in the world, but they don't necessarily reflect changes or differences in the person. V'im kain hayadai la'adam b'kabbalah achas shel amach shamayim v'amitzvos l'shneim la'erboker la'erev. In other words, that I could have made the argument that the obligation that I have of Shema is that once a day I have an obligation to accept upon myself the Ribono Shel Olam. Remember again, that we saw yesterday. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is my acceptance of God as a presence of my life, of a driving force in my life. And then V'haya'im Shamoa is the acceptance of mitzvos. Why can't you just do that once a day? Once a day, right? Make those two dramatic acceptances once a day, and that definitely should be enough. He says, and there really should be no need to do it by day or by night, because the truth is, there's no difference in me by day and by night. In other words, I'm the same person in the morning and in the evening. In other words, okay, I'm more tired, I'm more awake, right? But in other words, just both physiologically, emotionally, cognitively, theologically, I'm the same person. And one Kabbalah, one acceptance should have been enough. Now this is incredible. This is incredible. Therefore says Reb Tzadok the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu understood that we change over the course of the day. In other words, I'm a different person at different stages of the day. And at those different stages, at those dramatic intervals, that's when I have to do Shema. Remember again, I want to say the twofold piece of Shema, Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim, the acceptance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as my God and the driving force in my life, and Kabbalas Mitzvos, the acceptance of the responsibility to do mitzvos. So Reb Tzadok says, I'm obligated to do that and to reinforce that at two dramatic, pivotal points in the day when I change. What are those two pivotal points? This is incredible. He says, Shari Bayom, Hukam Mishnasav Osig B'Malachto. When you get up in the morning, I would say, what does a person do when they get up in the morning? Work. I begin my work day, right? I go to work. Obviously, again, I learn, I daven. But the idea is, when you wake up in the morning is the time in which I begin the working part of my day. So this is incredible. So it is so incredibly important to recite Shema at the beginning of the working part of my day. Why? Because the See, I will say, Reb Tzadok is highlighting over something really incredible. It is very easy to go through life with this, dichotomy. What's the dichotomy? There are spiritual parts of my life, and there are mundane parts of my life. So I wake up, I come to learn, spiritual. I daven, spiritual. I go to work, mundane. I eat spiritual and mundane together. I come home, whatever. I go to share spiritual. And we often have these dichotomies. Reb Tzadok says that's not how the Yid operates. Actually, the sacred task, perhaps the most sacred task of the Jew, is to infuse holiness into every single thing that we do. There's really, even when we say Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol, right? We speak about that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power, or that we have the power to distinguish between holy and profane. So we'll say, so the truth is, there are profane things in this world, but there should not be profane things in my life. In my life, everything is Kaddish. Everything is Kaddish. There's the ability to infuse holiness into everything that I do. So Reb Tzadok says, this notion that when I go to work, that's the mundane part. And also, I want to be clear, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. Otherwise, if you say, oh sure, if a person's livelihood is involved in Torah, then of course everything they do is holy. That's not what he's talking about over here. I mean, it is what he's talking about, but it's also the ability to infuse holiness into everything we do is true, no matter what your particular profession is. So this is incredible. Therefore, Reb Tzadok says, Uchidoma yulishim shamayim. Everything I do in my workday should somehow again be a kiddush Hashem. Has the elements of holiness. Kimo she'amru Chazal binyan ikar zman limud haTorah anan pali diyamama anu ha'oskim b'Torah nechshavim kipali hayom. So he's talking about over here, even those who learn Torah during the day are considered to be day laborers. B'divrei ha'gemara halalu meramzim al ma'aseinu ha'nasim b'mashach hayom shenachshiv es asmenu kipolim schire hayom ha'osim melacha. So said this is very interesting. When a person goes ahead and works, right? So the idea is, the Gemara says, or the Reb Tzadok is saying that. Well, let me frame the Gemara. The Gemara is talking about the idea that Talmidei Chachamim are considered to be like Pali Diyamame, what we call Sirei Yom, hired workers, day laborers. Now, what's the halacha when you're a day laborer? He says this is incredible. I'm still on page Vav, Be'urei Chasidus left-hand column. He says, Shadin, Shekol Ma'asem Sha'osim Hayom, Hahu Sheniskru Lavor Bo, Shayochim La'adon Shesachar Osam, La'avodas Kol Osayom. So this is very interesting. When you are a day laborer, you're on the clock. Whose clock are you on? The employer's. In other words, we'll say, you don't have free time. You don't have free time. Your time. So in other words, your employer will give you time for lunch, but when you're on the clock, ultimately, again, you need to perform, you need to produce for your employer. So it's interesting. So the Gemara says over here, now this is talking about Talmidei Chachamim, who are learning Torah the whole day. Right? So if you're learning Torah the whole day, the Gemara says, understand, you are schirei yom. You're an hourly laborer, right? You're a day laborer. And as a day laborer, your time belongs to the employer. So for the Talmid Chacham, his employer is the Ribono Shel Olam. But understand, you are on the clock. You're on the clock. He goes on, he says, Vashibotu ad kedei. Now listen to this, by the way. How does that manifest itself? This is incredible. Now, let's say a regular day laborer, the Reb Tzadok says, Vashibotu ad kedei kach shadinahu shafilu birkas hamozo mekatzer haschayom b'shvil avodaso. This is incredible. If you are a day laborer, right, schir yom, when you bench, you do not recite all of benching. How incredible is that? Right? Some people are like, sign me up for that, right? You don't recite all benching. Now, what does that mean? You only say through the bracha of Uvenei Yerushalayim, but you do not say the fourth bracha of Hatov V'Hamitiv. That is not recited. So isn't that absolutely incredible? Why? What's the logic behind that? The logic behind that is that halacha l'maisa, because you're on the clock, even on the clock, you have to take care of your spiritual needs, but not more than you're absolutely obligated to do. So the ikar of benching is through Uvinei Yerushalayim. That fourth bracha was an add-on. So if you're on the clock, you say what you have to, but no more. He goes on, he says, okay, so we'll say, so let's stop here for just a moment. So now, this illustration over here is by a Talmid Chacham. Right, so a Talmid Chacham, the Gemara is saying, a Talmid Chacham, if you're learning Torah, treat your learning of Torah as if you are a day laborer, and apply all of the halachos of day laborers to one who learns Torah, which means you're on the clock, which means no free time. Or any free time you're going to have has to be contracted by your employer. You're getting lunch? Okay, that's up to your employer. How long? When? Treat your time wisely. And even in spiritual matters, understand that you don't have the license to do whatever it is that you want, but rather, again, what you do has to really conform to the nature of your employment. So Reb Tzadok then globalizes this. And this is not just true for people who learn Torah all day, it's true for the rest of us also. That when we approach our lives, we are skirim, we are day laborers. And I will say, who do we ultimately work for? The Ribono Shel Olam. Remember, I will say, it is HaKadosh Baruch Hu who determines our parnasa, not our employers, right? Or if we're self-employed, not even how we manage our businesses, right? That we have to put in our shtadlus. I definitely have to put in the requisite amount of effort. But at the end of the day, I work for God. And as such, I have to be careful with how I treat my employment. And as I go through my day, am I sanctifying the name of heaven? Am I making a Kiddush Hashem? Am I doing the right things? Am I running my life and running my business in accordance with halacha? Am I treating my employees fairly? Am I treating people nicely? All of these different things. And I will say, by the way, it's even more than that. And when I'm on the job, am I focusing on my day? And I will say, a person works for someone. Sometimes we have like this aggrandized image of like, I'm working for someone, and when I'm not working, and I open up my sefer and I learn. Who says you could do that? If you're on someone else's time, so you don't just, it's very nice, it's very beautiful, but again, you need to ask permission for that. The idea is that when I run my work day, so am I doing it like a religious inspired Jew? Am I running my business, or am I running my life in accordance with halacha and doing the right thing? So Rabbi says, it's so beautiful. Reb Tzadok says, this is why we say Shema bikumecha when you wake up. Because when you wake up, what's the first thing you're going to do? I'm going to work. In other words, the first major thing in my day is that, okay, of course I'm going to learn, I'm going to daven, but really the essence of the morning is I'm going to work. What's the first thing a Jew does before he goes to work? Shema. I accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu as my God, recognizing that He is directing everything that is going to happen over the course of my workday. He is the determinant of the success of my parnasa. And number two, Kabbalas o mitzvos. I accept upon myself mitzvos. That at the end of the day, I'm bound by a code of mitzvos. Whether I'm in the Beis Medrash or whether I'm in the boardroom, right? Whether I'm in my personal life or whether I'm in my professional life. I am bound by those same Taryag mitzvos, by those same 613 mitzvos. That's why I begin the day with Shema. And that's why Reb Tzadok says, Shema, the obligation is not framed as saying it, you say Shema by day. It's not what it says. It says, Bikumecha. You say Shema when you get up in the morning, because the daytime experience of Shema is supposed to be linked to my work day. Absolutely incredible. He ends off, so therefore, again, by saying Shema bikumecha when I wake up in the morning, that teaches me to direct all of my work activities somehow through the lens of the Ribono Shel Olam. Zosi kriyas Shema shechai ba'adam likro b'shaski. Rabbi, so stop over here for today. So now again, remember, Rabbi Tzadok is trying to explain to us why is it that Shema is not framed as a day-night obligation, but instead it's framed as a waking up, going to sleep obligation. And now I understand it. The waking up piece ultimately is to keep me focused on bringing the dynamic of Shema, Kabbalas o Malchus Shamayim, Kabbalas o Mitzvos, into my workday. All right, we'll stop over here. To be continued tomorrow, Mirz Hashem.